For the past 4 years, I've been traveling the world, and on my journey across these continents, I've met countless fascinating individuals who all have different perspectives on life.
I knew from the moment I met those women that I had to tell their stories.
From Olympic athletes who performed at the highest level to artists who create unbelievable work and refugees who have overcome the most difficult of challenges. Each and every single one of them has their own formula for life, and I'm here to find out what that is.
What they wanted, whether they knew it or not, is they wanted to be inspired.
My name is Trevor Carlson, and this is the Formula Podcast.
All right, welcome to this episode of the Formula Podcast. Today I have with me Dave Pascoe. Dave, for somebody who has never met you before, never heard of you, you meet them at like a dinner party or a biohacking event, how do you introduce yourself?
I usually just say, "Hey, I'm Dave."
And
It's funny. I mean, I don't really go into like what I do unless people really press me for it. It just seems like most people I meet have never heard of biohacking. They don't know what it is. They think it's a little weird. I've been at parties before where, somebody that actually knew me from this kind of stuff started asking me questions about, health, fitness, and other people that were around, like their eyes just kind of glazed over and they found excuses to like move on and go to some other conversation. So I don't usually bring it up.
yeah, well, I guess that makes sense because if you don't have the context to understand some of this stuff, then it can be very difficult to, I mean, when you start talking about like the longevity Olympics and is it the age of the rate of aging or something like that? Is that the correct? Yeah. Pace it. When you start talking about that, it's like, unless you have the context to understand what that actually means, you're just going to be like, oh, so you're just like getting older slower. And which is, I think is probably a good way to describe it. Or how would you describe that metric?
Yeah, I would say that's a good way of describing it. It's just slowing your aging. I mean, we're all aging. We can't really do much to control that, but some people are aging a lot faster and others are aging slower. So if you can control the pace or the speed at which you're aging, like why wouldn't you?
And we were kind of talking before we started recording about, I told you I was 37 and you wished you could go back. And I was like, well, I want to go back to feeling like I'm, 22 or 25 again. So I think as you get older and as your body starts to change, I feel like these things become more, maybe not more important, but you become more aware of them because some things start to break down or you start getting pains or other issues. So you're like, how can I stop this or turn it around?
I wish I knew the things that I know now when I was 37, because I wasn't taking very good care of myself at 37. I kind of
Yeah.
fell away from like all the things that I was doing. And I don't know. I thought it didn't matter. But then, it did. When I started feeling like I was really old, beat up, unattractive. And it was. I was still in decent shape, but, just, yeah.
Yeah. So for those who don't know or haven't heard of you before, you'll have to correct me because the last piece of information I saw is at one point you were number 6 in Brian Johnson's longevity Olympics. You're 62 years old. I don't have written down what age your what your biological age is, but it's a lot lower than your age is right now. And Dave is 62. He's got great skin. He's in great shape. We'll talk about the skincare later because my wife would probably love to hear about that. And you are your biological age, I hope I'm using the right term, is substantially less than your actual age or however long you've been alive.
Yeah, it depends on whose tests we're looking at. I've had my biological age measured to be anywhere between like 37 and 53.
Wow. And you started biohacking when you were in your 40s?
It depends on how we classify the term, only because, the term, I guess, didn't really exist until I was probably like mid to late 40s, maybe early 50s. Okay, so I've gone through so many different iterations of my health and fitness in my life. I've always tried to be healthy and fit, but I think it was right about the time I was 45 when a workout program came out called P90X. And I saw the infomercials. I thought, yeah, that looks like it's BS. But at the time, I was trying to, do workouts with friends, other gym bros, and I was trying to follow their stuff. And I would look at their body styles and I would think, okay, I don't really want to look like that guy. I don't think I'm going to take his advice. And then I would see I had other guys that were just really like massive chests and great biceps and just these spindly little legs because they never worked their legs out. So I would observe all these different groups of people in their workouts and I would try to find out what I could do that would mimic the best of what they were doing, not the worst. But when P90X came out, and I'm thinking, now here looks like a really structured program. And it looks like it's covering everything. It's got, legs, it's got arms, it's got back, it's, you name it, abs. And so I bought it thinking that it's probably not going to work, but I'll go and I'll do exactly what it says and we'll see what happens. So 30 days in of this 90-day program, I was pretty shocked because I'm thinking, I'm starting to see some definition. I'm starting to see some size. About 60 days in, other people started noticing and commenting. And 90 days in, man, I was like just jacked, like the best shape I've ever been in my life. And I loved it because I had always felt kind of invisible before that. But now, like, heads were turning, a lot of girls were looking at me, and I was like, hey, okay, I like this. I'm good.
So do you still do P90X?
I do. Yeah, I've tried so many other programs. There's a P90X2 and a P90X3, so I've tried both of those. I've tried, mixed martial art programs like Tap Out XT, Tap Out XT2, um, a Brazilian butt lift I've tried. I've tried Insanity. I mean, you name it. Every program that's come out, I've tried them all, but nothing seems to get me in shape like P90X does. So I've always returned back to that. And now I just do that exclusively.
Yeah. Is there anything that you do alongside that, that like as far as diet goes? Because you said there's other things you probably tried before P90X. Was there anything that you changed, like whether it's like your protein, calories, anything that you were eating differently, like before you were doing P90X and when you started it?
Well, I'm kind of embarrassed to say never did follow the diet program that came with P90X. I should have, because I could have benefited so much from that, but I was dumb. I didn't think I needed to. It wasn't until I started doing marathon training, that was about the time I turned 50, that I couldn't sustain my body weight anymore. And so I had to like really change up what I was doing because I was eating very low carb. Like for a while, I went completely vegan. I cut out all meat and I tried that. I lasted about 8 months. And one day I was just craving a burger. I don't even know what came over me. And I was driving by a Wendy's and I thought, I'm going to go get a Wendy's triple. And so I ate this triple and it was just like, Popeye eating spinach. All of a sudden my energy just shot back up and I'm thinking, oh, wow, okay, this vegan thing, this is not working for me. So I'm going to have to do some meat. So I added meat back in.
Oh man, we're gonna have to talk about this too because I have some personal experience that maybe I could use your advice on.
Okay. But, I ended up having to add carbs back in because I was very low carb. I found that by going low carb, I could, get rid of a lot of body fat and have a much more cut and lean look. But I could also, as a side effect, I could eat as much as I want and not gain weight because the carbs for me, is what tends to pack the weight on. So, like, for example, if I go and eat a pizza right now, tomorrow I will be able to pinch the pizza on my abs. Like, it's that dramatic for me.
Yeah. Uh, oh man, we'll get into diet some more stuff later because I have a few other questions in regards to like P90X. There was another interview that you did while you said while you were doing P90X, you had kind of a hard time making it through one of the workouts, and then you started taking an NR supplement, and you were able to do more than you were able to finish like 2 workouts in one day. So so for those who don't know, what is an NR supplement, and what was the product that you took that made such a difference?
Okay. All right. Yeah, this was probably about 6 years into doing P90X when I was noticing that my energy levels just weren't what they used to be. Because I used to be able
Mhm.
to just blow through the whole P90X hour and a half workout in the hour and a half time, no problem. But I noticed I was getting more and more sluggish as time went on, and then it might be taking me 2 hours to get through one, or I'd have to just do it piecemeal, like little snacks throughout the day. And then I was listening to a podcast where they were talking about, this was relatively new at the time. They discovered there's a rate limiting factor in the creation of ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate. That's the energy system of our cells in our body. Um, there's a thing called the Krebs cycle or electron transport chain in the creation of that energy. And one of the rate limiting components is a thing called NAD. I think it's nicotinamide adenosine dinucleotide, I believe. I'm probably butchering that, but it's close.
Awesome.
And so as we get older, we produce less and less of this.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking, well, that kind of sounds like me. So I wonder if that's an issue. And then they talked about they had a supplement. It was a company called Chromadex. They created in fact, wait a minute. I've got, all right. Yeah. Oh, okay. How's this for product placement? They,
Yeah,
this product called, I don't even know if you can see it. It's all washed out.
true.
Imagine,
Yep.
uh, It's, it's an NR, a nicotinamide riboside. So it's a precursor to NAD. There's also another precursor called NMN that a lot of people like to use. I like NR because it just seems like it works for me. And I think I've heard some arguments, pro or con, that NR might be better than NMN. I know Dr. David Sinclair loves to talk about NMN, but for me, NR really just does the trick. And so once I started taking this, I noticed, like, I didn't notice anything going about my day to day. It wasn't until I did my next P90X workout, which was a couple days later, that wow, I burned through the whole workout and I was so energetic still. I'm like, whoa, where did this come from? And so I thought, well, I want to see where the bottom drops out. So I did a whole nother hour and a half P90X workout, which, is not really advisable, but really just wanted to see where it dropped out. That was fine. I could have kept going. And so like, whoa, this is amazing. So I subscribed to it right away and I'm still doing it today.
So it's been quite, how many years have you been on it then?
Oh gosh. So I was probably about 55, 56 when I started.
Okay. It's about 7 years.
Yeah.
Have you, all right. Have you cycled on or and off of it to kind of see if it has any other effects, or have you pretty much been consistently taking it since that time?
I have cycled. I mean, I've cycled off of all of my supplements, from time to time just kind of clear the slate and start over again.
Yeah.
Um, Also, because I take so many supplements and it takes so much effort to package them up for like the month, there are times a couple of weeks might go by when I run low before I will go package them all up again just because I'm lazy and I don't really want to go through.
I understand.
I'm actually in a phase like that right now, to be honest, because I'm redoing all of my supplement timing. The way my supplement plan is laid out right now, it's built for simplicity. So
Mhm,
I've got like supplements that I'll take in the morning and supplements that I'll take
mhm,
in the evening. And they're kind of divided that way intentionally because in the morning I'm focusing, more mTOR, like building
Uh-huh.
um, mitochondrial, enhancement type stuff. And then in the evening I'm focusing more on like autophagy and, AMPK and stuff like that. But I've always realized or I've always known that that sort of back and forth turnaround time is too tight. It's too tight of a window. And that a lot of the supplements that I'm taking can have effects where they're like, competing against each other for absorption. So I've always known it's not the best. Now I've been working for a month trying to come up with a whole new plan. And I'm using AI to help me with this. Otherwise, I'd never be able to handle this complexity or all the research. But a whole new plan of supplement timing throughout the day of, taking this group that now and this group an hour later and this group like 2 hours after that. And, where they need to belong and which can be grouped together that they're not going to compete for absorption. And yeah, it's like mind-blowingly complex. When I'm done, I don't even know if it's going to be practical because
yeah.
I'm going to be taking supplements like all throughout the day, which It's going to be completely annoying, but I'll try it. I'll try it for a while and see what happens. And then if it's just untenable, I'll have to go to something else. But scientifically, it'll make a lot more sense the way I'm working it now.
I'm gonna ask more later on about like which supplements you're taking or like what your supplement regimen is at the moment, or ideally what it would be. You were able to get yourself like to test as being sixth. Is that the most? That's the highest you've been on the list so far, right? Is sixth place?
Yeah, 0.66 was my pace of aging at that particular time.
So that means for every year you're alive, you're aging at a 0.66 rate in comparison to like the normal human body
Yeah.
aging rate, I guess. That's crazy.
I have a theory about that I've talked about on some other podcasts.
Let's hear it. What's the theory?
In listening to interviews with all of the people that are in the top 10 the Rejuvenation Olympics, I find that all of us are different in so many different ways. Like some don't take any supplements at all. Some do completely different workouts. Some are vegan, some are carnivore, some are even doing shift work. So, we're also vastly different. The only thing that we all have in common is that we're not eating processed food. Vegan, carnivore, doesn't matter. If you're making your own food and you're using like grass-fed beef, not regular farm-raised stuff, it seems to make a huge difference to people's pace of aging. So it's getting rid of all processed foods. And most everyone seems to be fairly conscientious about the things that they're putting in and on their body, like personal care products free of chemicals, filtering the water, filtering their air. My theory is that those of us that are in the top 10, we're not necessarily aging better than, is humanly possible. We're not like superhumans or anything like that. It's everybody else is aging way worse than is natural because of the onslaught of the processed foods and all the chemicals and everything else that's in our environment.
Yeah. It's crazy. I listened to an interview where you spent some time in Italy and it seems like you've traveled a decent amount. I've been all over the place. My wife is Indian, so I've spent time in like India, Asia, all over. And when you see people that are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s in other places, and they're still like, they're like going to catch the train, they're like out, I have like this vivid memory of being in the Himalayas and being very winded, like hiking up this trail and seeing this old woman. She looked like she was like in her 90s, just with like a pack on her back full of like firewood. She just booked it past me and I was just like,
Yeah.
So you see stuff like that, and then you see kind of, when you came back, you might have noticed this as well. When you come back from Italy and you land in the US and you're at the airport, and this happens to me like every time, where I just see a stark difference in the overall health of the people here versus in other places. And I just don't see anywhere else eating the level of processed foods that we do.
Yeah.
And
Definitely see that.
yeah, and I gave up processed food almost probably close to 10 years ago, because I kept feeling like I was having these almost reactions every time I ate it. And then, I thought I was like gluten-free or gluten tolerant, all these different things. And then now I just found out that I just can't, and my body just doesn't like something about the processed foods. Because I go overseas, I have bread, I have whatever I want, and I'm like, oh, this is fine. Unless it's street.
Body feels that difference. And then once you know that difference, you can never go back again.
Yeah, because and then I just ask myself, like, do people that eat this stuff all the time just feel this way every day? Is that how everyone else is kind of existing that eats processed foods? If it is, that's quite alarming and sad.
It is. Yeah. It's the same with like high carb meals too. I always noticed like when I was working, after lunch, those after lunch conference calls or meetings, everybody was nodding off and just trying to stay awake because the carb crash was hitting you. When you cut out carbs, you go low carb, that doesn't happen. You have just steady energy all throughout the day. It's like night and day. It's very drastic.
Yeah, so I got my parents are in their mid-60s. I think my dad's 64, mom's 66.
Wow, is one close to your dad's age?
Yeah, but
It's in my mind right now. I mean, I look at you and I keep thinking, well, yeah, we're probably the same age, That's, I mean, if
yeah,
which is how I look at the world, right? I keep thinking I'm way
that's
younger.
well, that's how I feel looking at you. I'm just like, yeah, we're up to like roughly the same age, same like like youthful vitality, I guess. But yeah, so I got them into like they did some blood tests and they went over it with a nutrition coach and they kind of he got them like on some like just basic like B12s and magnesium supplements. And then he got them just to stop snacking on heavy carbs and eating fruit. And it's just been like a big change for them, just those small things. So that carb thing is such a big deal for energy in the afternoon.
It really is. I mean, once you switch yourself over from being carb adapted to more fat adapted,
Hmm.
yeah, your whole
Yeah,
just
for sure. So bringing us back to like your rate of aging, there's probably some things that you do that probably have the biggest impact. I mean, when you start talking about like the time of supplementation, things like that feels more of like once you're really kind of into it, that's what you would do. But if you had to narrow it down to, I get 80% of my results from these 20% of actions, what would that 20% of actions be in regards to like health and longevity?
okay. Because I thought you were for sure asking me just about pace of aging.
Well, I think it's similar, but I don't know if most people are ever gonna get their pace of aging tested.
Because I know it mentioned, like on my website, I say that I'm into health, I'm into fitness, I'm into anti-aging, and I'm into
Mhm,
longevity.
mhm,
And people have asked me, well, aren't those all the same thing? And I'm like,
mhm,
actually, no. Actually, no, they're really completely different because you can be like super healthy and but not be very fit, right? You not have
mm,
any muscle mass. You could be kind of sarcopenic. On the other hand, you could be like huge, just like massive, like from the gym, but be metabolically wrecked and not really healthy at all. So those two things are completely different. And then there's, anti-aging versus longevity, right?
mhm,
Anti-aging is I don't want to age much faster than I am now so that I can try to stay like this age as long as possible. Whereas,
mhm.
longevity is, um, you know, living for as long as
Yeah,
oh, and then
yeah.
health span. I left health span out of that too.
Oh, yeah,
With,
yeah.
health span versus lifespan. Really,
Mhm,
I don't care about living forever. I'm not
yeah,
interested in that. I just wanna be as healthy as possible until the day that I drop. So
yeah.
to get to your question, I know I kind of like went around your question. There's so many different numbers and different markers that you can use to try to
Mhm,
answer that question with, or just pace of aging and, well, epigenetic age. I don't think supplements are necessary at all. Again, based on the interviews that I've seen with the people that are in the top 10 of the Rejuvenation Olympics leaderboard. I love to mention Julie Gibson Clark in every single interview I've ever been on because when Brian was number 7 on the Rejuvenation Olympics and I was number 6, and we stayed that way for that entire year, Julie was number 5. She was ahead of both of us. Julie doesn't do like any supplements. Well, I shouldn't say any. She did do like Novos Core, which is like a $50 a month supplement, really low key, and it's a senolytic, so it kind of helps clear out you know, some older and not very efficient cells. But the things that she did right, of course, was that she really has her sleep dialed in. She does a lot of like rucking and hiking, so she's always moving and sweating. She's always making her own food, so she's got her diet locked in, and she's pretty good about keeping her stress low. So those key things: sleep, nutrition, exercise, and keeping your stress low. Oh, well, and then I guess there would be 5, um, trying to prevent, like, you're not doing processed foods, you're keeping your personal care products clean, you're keeping your environmental exposures low. Those 5 things, give you, like that gives you 100%, not just the 80/20. Those give you pretty much everything that's gonna help you to stay
mhm.
younger and better longer.
Yeah. So you mentioned like sleep for one. Is there like is there a floor for like like the average person? This is what you need to be averaging for sleep in order for that to be considered like good?
For great question. Um, I go by my fitness trackers, is that's really all I have to measure by, and each one of them says something a little different. Because, well, I'm wearing a Whoop band. I've got and my Garmin is on charge right now, so it's right here, so I'm not wearing it. And then I got my Oura ring. So between the three of them, they don't always agree, but um, they seem to agree on roughly 8 hours of sleep. But that varies, each one of them. It will vary based on my activity level for the day. So when I do a particularly hard workout, I will notice that my sleep need is much higher. Whether the apps tell me that or not, I can feel that myself. I'll just naturally sleep longer as I'm hungry. So there's times I'll get maybe 9, 10 hours of sleep, and at the lowest 7, but I'll always feel my best at 7. So
Yeah. This is a little off topic. I've been doing this all my let me rephrase this. My wife has been doing this experiment for about 6 months. Um, so she's gonna kill me when she listens to this because I can't remember if she was hyper or hypothyroid. But she was having some thyroid issues. She went to a bunch of doctors and they were all like, "You have to take medicine. You can't fix this." You have she went to a bunch. They're like, "You have to take medicine. There's no way you have to take it. It's just either if it's now or down the road." And she's like, "I don't accept that." So she did some homework, and she started reducing her eating window time to around 5 hours a day. And all of her thyroid markers over the course of 6 months improved. Almost all three of the four back into like the normal range, where they told her it was physically impossible for it to do that.
that's cool.
And so I've started doing this as well. I usually would skip breakfast and then eat lunch and dinner. So now I've done something different where I'm stopping eating at an earlier time. And I've noticed, like I wear a Whoop band, my recovery score is it's like 90% plus every day, which was almost impossible for me to get before. But I also am finding I'm sleeping less. Like I'm waking up earlier, getting less sleep, but I feel like I have more energy. Does that sound? Yeah, I don't know if you've done any.
If your sleep efficiency has improved, I'll bet it has.
Yeah, it's in the 90s.
Okay.
So,
That makes
but yeah, I think I'm only getting maybe like 6, 7 hours, which is if I got that in the past, I feel like I would just be like, so
right. Right.
yeah.
Yeah. If your sleep efficiency, like if there's something that's preventing you from having like good restorative sleep, sleeping all day isn't going to help. So yeah, sleep efficiency is probably the number one component of sleep that really matters.
So in regards to like recovery, and sleep, do you find that stopping yourself, like keeping a shorter eating window or stopping from eating at a specific time before bed helps you?
Yeah, for me, at least if I have to stop eating at least 3 hours before
3 hours.
my sleep scores improve drastically. And the reason for that is if your body is so busy digesting, if it's putting all of its resources in digesting your food while you're sleeping, then you're robbing it of the opportunity to be putting those resources into your rejuvenation repair, which is what it would prefer to do. And of course, you would prefer that it do that as well.
Yep.
And that's why I keep telling people, don't feel like you're lazy because you feel like you're sleeping too much. Because if you're shorting yourself on sleep, you're shorting yourself on that rejuvenation and repair. And, try not to eat so late in the evening because, again, you're going to interfere with that rejuvenation and repair. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I eat my dinner at like 3 o'clock so that I'm eating somewhere between 3 and 5, but I'm done by 5. And then digestion is completely clear by the time I go to bed around 10 or 11.
That's awesome. Except for I did notice that you mentioned something about kiwis before bed. Tell us about the kiwis before bed.
Okay. I read this in one of the various books on the topic, and I can't even recall who I should attribute this to, because there was probably multiple people that, recommended it. But kiwi are supposed to be very DNA restorative or regenerative. It helps with double strand breaks and things of that nature. So, but it also helps as a sleep aid. And so I started the habit of having 2 kiwi every night just before bed. And I noticed in my sleep scores that they improved from that. So it's just stuck as a habit.
That's so fascinating. It's
Those are
something.
my sleep supplements and, hopefully about 30 minutes then before bed.
Okay. Yeah, it's such a random fruit to eat before bed and to have such an impact. But that's really cool. It's something I'll have to test out. Because anything you can do to I feel like anything you can do to improve your sleep quality pays dividends for like if people are like they want to be like high achievers or whatever, and they think they have to work so hard. Well, that kind of starts with having a good foundation of good sleep.
Yeah, it uses that, that age-old adage of let food be thy medicine. And so I'm trying to pick from foods that are regenerative and restorative. That's what I base my diet around.
In a previous interview, you mentioned that your parents didn't take very good care of themselves. Did you feel like watching them age and was a big part of your motivation to improve your quality of life, or where did that come from for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I had a lot of questions as a kid, and my parents didn't have a lot of patience for questions. So I had to observe other people and what they were doing to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing because I couldn't get straight answers from my parents. And so, yeah, I started noticing that, people that were aging really, really well were doing different things. Like they weren't smoking, they weren't drinking, they were exercising, they were eating healthy. And so I always tried to, duplicate that. And I tried to get my parents to duplicate that, but they didn't really see the need for it. Like they just didn't get it. I thought I was stupid, basically. My questions were annoying. They'd always tell me, "Don't just shut up," and they would just go ahead and do what they did. So they smoked, they drank, they didn't exercise, they didn't eat well. Um, and so, I mean, I kind of used my parents as an example of what not to do. And I watched because I figured, well, all right, I've seen what these healthy people are doing that are really old and great, are in great shape. And I've seen people half their age that are just beaten up and broken down and have diseases and all kinds of ailments. And my parents look like they're on that road. So I observed, and yeah, I mean, I saw them go through a big decline really early on, like in their 40s, their 50s, their 60s. And I mean, it just got worse and worse. The last 18, 20 years of their life were not good. They were battling various cancers. In fact, I had to move in with them and take care of them when they both had cancer at the same time. And that was, gosh, probably 2000. It was 2001 when I moved back in with them. So, but I figured that was kind of karma because they took care of me for the first 18 years of my life. And so I took care of them for the last 18, 19 years of theirs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were a big influence on me of what not to do. And I saw firsthand every day what happened when you don't listen to conventional wisdom and just go ahead and do whatever the heck you want to do.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry you had to go through that, and I'm sure they appreciate you coming home and helping.
They did. I
So
just
what do you
hadn't been necessary.
Sorry?
I just wish it hadn't been necessary. If they would have like listened to my advice, I think they could have avoided all of that.
Yeah. So if you're talking to somebody that's in their, 30, 40, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s, and they're kind of noticing that they're starting to go down this path of seeing like the ramifications of maybe not the most healthy decisions, like what do you tell that person? What advice do you give them?
It's only if they ask, right? Because
Okay.
unsolicited advice is nobody ever likes that, right?
Right.
Again, I learned that as a kid, but I've seen it multiple times. So I don't usually offer people advice. I just go, yeah, okay, do you. But when they ask, I tell them, I'm like, look, if you're smoking, that's not helping you. You really probably need to quit doing that, and they just don't want to, right? And I tell them, maybe that Diet Coke isn't the best thing for you to be drinking, but most of the time they don't want to give it up, So it's like, hey, what can I do? I can't, if you're not even willing to do those first two things, then anything else I tell you about, health or longevity is completely pointless because you got to take care of those first, right? You have to be willing to change. If you're saying, no, there's no way I could give up my ice cream. There's no way I could give up sugar. There's no way I could give up caffeine. That's my life. That's my identity. Well, okay, so if you're going to argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. And there's nothing else I can say to people beyond that. But if they are open to getting rid of some of those habits and trying something new, then yeah, I'm willing to like step up and be a coach and help them with anything they want to know.
It's like when you're not willing to give something like that up, it's like you're in a way, how do I say this? By not giving something up, you're accepting whatever the flip side of the coin is for that. So it could be health ramifications 10, 20 years down the road. Just for that slight bit of enjoyment that you get today.
It's funny how short-sighted people actually are because they think they're never going to have to pay the piper. They think that eventuality is never going to come. They're like, oh, no, I'm just going to do what I'm doing now. I'm fine. It's the same even with investing, right? I mean, if you invest early when you're young, you got compound interest that's, going to be working in your favor. And when you become my age, you're going to be very well off financially because you started socking away early. But if you like don't do that because you think, oh yeah, I'll worry about that when that comes down the road, or I just don't have the money right now to be able to put a little extra aside. I can't afford to do that. If you say that, you're going to continue saying that into your 40s and your 50s and your 60s. So then by the time that you want to retire, you've got nothing because you didn't do the work when you had the chance. So longevity and actually having a nice nest egg for retirement, they're basically the same principle.
It's sad that a lot of people don't even think about it until something breaks. And then when it does break, then it's just like, what do I do? It's like, well, go back in time. That's pretty much all.
You need to change it. Yeah. I wish.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like if you could almost show people a glimpse into the future of what it looks like if they keep going down the path that they're on. I'm not trying to criticize any one particular person. It's more like I feel when I see people that are suffering, I feel bad for them now. And I'm just like, man, I wish it didn't have to be like that.
I always did thought experiments as a kid where I would like fast forward myself in life to try to see myself in my 30s or 50s or 60s or beyond and say, like, well, what do I have to do today to be in the shape that I want to be when I reach that age? So what do I have to avoid doing? What will it be like? What do I have to start doing today or learning or changing or growing so that I can be the person that I hope to be when I'm at that age? And I'm at a position in life that I want to be at when I'm there. Again, financially or, health-wise or relationship-wise or in any capacity that you think of. And so I'd always do those thought experiments as a kid and try to look ahead and say, all right, I'm in my 60s now. What is it that I would wish that I could tell myself if I could go back in time? What would I tell myself? And it's funny, the answers that came to me, like even back then is, okay, I wish as a kid, I'm thinking, I wish I'd eat less sugar is what my answer would be when I was older to tell my younger self. And so then I would start to try to apply that as my younger self because I thought my older self would benefit from that.
I feel like I came across this thought experiment in Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Great book.
Yeah. He says something like, imagine you're like 80 years old and you're looking back on this moment right now. What decision do you wish you would have made?
Yes, exactly.
And I try to do that, but sometimes it's not so easy because you're just like, well, Maybe just this one time and then it'll be fine.
You really have to meditate on it because I don't know, I'm a little weird. Sometimes I think that we're connected to ourself at different points in time. It's kind of like the whole quantum energy thing, or what Einstein called like spooky reaction at a distance. I think we're connected to our past and our future self in the present, and we can tap into those through meditation. So if you really, really get deep into a meditation, you can connect back with yourself. Oh my gosh, I've got stories that kind of give me goosebumps, but we won't go into those now because this will take us down a rabbit hole. But yeah, never mind. I won't go there.
You're okay. When you sit down to meditate, what is your process? Do you have music? Do you sit down on a cushion in a dark room? Do you have a place you go? What does that look like?
A little of each, because it's funny, you can actually do moving meditations. So I could be meditating while I'm cutting the grass, because it's just the physical movement that I'm doing is pretty much, autonomic. I'm autopilot, really. I'm not even thinking about it, but I might be, deep into a meditation. I meditate in my sauna, while I'm sitting there, I'll just kind of zone out. I did a yoga class last night where we did some meditation toward the end. It was a sunset rooftop yoga class. It was great. It was a beautiful evening. And yeah, so a lot of like just deep meditation there. So
Yeah.
it's a matter of just clearing your mind, really, no matter what you're physically doing or what your surroundings are. If you want to start a meditation practice, then sure, just sitting on a nice cushion somewhere, like, or even the edge of your bed, wherever, it's a great place to start. But once you really get into the practice, you can get into that headspace no matter what you're sort of where you are.
Have you done a Vipassana retreat?
I haven't. I would love to do that though.
Nice. My my wife has done one, and or my mother-in-law has done several. Um, and they're like, I think that they're requiring me to do it at some point in the future. And I'm very excited to try, but I feel like I have this, it's not fear. It's more like an anxiety of like,
Being alone with
just,
your own thoughts.
I mean, not necessarily, because I've done a smaller meditation retreat where you could talk though, and there wasn't like the limitations on all that stuff. I found walking meditation at that. It was in Thailand. It was a temple in the middle of the jungle, and found the walking meditation to be amazing. I don't know. Maybe I just like to talk too much, and the idea of not being able to express myself is anxiety inducing.
Interesting. I mean, I know people that like would freak out if they had to be alone with their own thoughts for 2 minutes at a time. Or like if they didn't have their cell phone, like, okay, I'm not surfing. What am I gonna do? Like, yeah, just freak. I have to have something keeping me occupied. That's a shame because you're really missing out on so much.
Yeah.
If you're like into spirituality at all, if like you believe in a higher power or higher consciousness, God, the the wisdom and the answers that you might be seeking usually come to you at the most quietest moments when you finally shut off all that mental chatter. Thoughts and ideas will come to you that like, where did that come from? Because I never thought of that. I don't think that came from me. It get real freaky sometimes. You might get really good wisdom just by shutting down all that chatter.
For sure. And this is something I go back and forth on, because sometimes when I'm walking, I like to listen. If I'm in the middle of a good podcast or something, I like to listen. But I find that the walks or hiking or doing whatever it is that you're doing, and with like no headphones, no phones, nothing, that's when like, I feel like that's when the best information comes to you, whether it's like you said, from a higher power, from yourself. So when I see people that are just like, and they got their headphones in, and I'm just like, man, you got just take a break. It's gonna be fine.
You need that break.
So j- just random question. It's something that I try to find balance with, because I do most of my work online, like everyone else. It seems like, or a lot of other people these days, it feels like you have to kind of be plugged in order to have that, to be in contact with your community of people, whether it's your customers, friends, whatever it is. So you kind of live in that space too, where you're on podcasts, you're on social media, you have your website and business. how do you find balance between like being on your device and interacting with like the digital world, and also being able to like detach and be present? Because it's something that I find myself doing a bit of this on where sometimes I feel very out of whack, and other times I feel quite good. Um, but I was just wondering, what is your method? How do you approach that?
Yeah, it's a challenge, because, I'm in this space now where I'm kind of expected to be a creator.
Mhm.
I'm an influencer, even though I don't wanna be an influencer,
Yeah.
nor have any interest in being an influencer, but yet I'm considering starting a YouTube channel, so there's that. Um, yeah, it's frustrating because usually the first thing in the morning, I wanna pick up my phone, I wanna just, check on my stats, I wanna weigh myself um, and just that kinda thing, but I'll get sucked into looking at texts and looking,
Mhm.
things from Facebook Messenger, and then looking at the Instagram messages, and then responding to likes, and then there's the DMs, and so I'm
Yeah.
hours can get sucked by just doing those. And then if
Mhm.
I even, think to look at content that's out there, like other people's content, oh my gosh, yeah, I can waste so much time. Yeah, so it's frustrating because I need to be there to post things, but I don't want to be there to get sucked into all the other content unless it's
Mhm.
quality, content. If it's some content that I can learn from, uh, then that's great. If it's just content that's just entertainment, then no, I'd really rather not. So I
Yeah.
struggle with that too. I don't know if I have a great answer for you other than I just don't pick up my phone for many hours at a time. And then when I do come back to it, people are pissed at me because it's like, hey, why aren't you responding? So it's like, oh, okay, hobbies, everybody. Right?
I'm doing stuff, man.
I'm busy. Sorry.
Yeah. That's okay. I was just curious on that because it's something I go back and forth with. I feel like that the biggest battle is like not picking it up the first time. If you can just delay that first time as long as possible, then like the better your day is going to be. At least in that's from my micro experiments I've been doing. It seems to be like the most effective thing than anything else.
I agree. I actually got out and ran early today because I did not
Nice.
set my phone first. So I was so proud of myself. I got the run done and I was like, yes. And now I can waste time.
So you mentioned you took a lot of different tests to discover your epigenetic age. Which tests do you find to be the most effective in painting a picture of health? And are there any that you feel like are just vanity metrics, waste of time?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one. Like epigenetics, I do like Generation Lab. I'll do True Diagnostic. I'll do Glycan Age. The three of those give some really good, deep, insightful information. I don't always know how to make it actionable, and of course, neither do they yet,
Yeah.
but it's fascinating, and I'm, like, trying to dig into the meat and potatoes of, like, where that data comes from and how it's acquired. In most cases, that stuff's proprietary, so they're not really willing to share, but, um, yeah, I'm trying to dig in and figure out, like, well, what component of my, my proteins or my metabolites is causing that particular result, right?
Mhm.
How can I how can I change that? What things could I possibly do to improve that? So I'm always looking into things like that. But, I do Dutch testing, I do, like, Genova diagnostics, I do DEXA scans, actually, I'm cheating, I'm looking at a little list that I've got here.
That's all
LifeWack
right.
telomere tests, I do, trace element hair mineral analysis and, SpectraCell micronutrient analysis and telomere testing.
Right.
I'll do, NAD testing with, like, Ginfinity and Do Not Age just to make sure that, I'm the amount of, nicotinamide riboside that I'm taking is still working for me, and so, based on those tests, I'm still in the, mid-optimal range. But then I'll do, like, imaging. I've done Clearly CT heart scans. I've done Prenuvo full body scan.
Mm.
Um, Recently, I've got I have rotator cuff impairment on both shoulders. I actually have a labrum tear in my right shoulder, and I'm probably gonna end up needing arthroscopic surgery on both of them. And my elbows are pretty beat up too. I've got, based on some recent ultrasound, X-rays, and MRIs, I've got some arthritis built up there. I've got, fluid on the joints and yeah, so I need some arthroscopic surgery pretty much on both elbows and both shoulders, which I'm going to be looking into very shortly, very soon. So yeah, so I do all that testing, tons of DNA testing with various companies. When it comes to microbiome testing,
It's like your digestive system testing.
yeah, yeah, I don't think the state of the art is really quite there yet. I know they're working, it's improving. Some people will still swear by them, but for me, the information that they give me back has not been useful enough. Um, but all the other testing, I mean, all that other stuff, it gives me just a different piece of the puzzle. So I don't think any of it's worthless. Oh, and ILO is another company that gives you like 150 different metabolites that are really fun to dig into because it's like, oh my gosh, what do all these do, and how do I change all these?
Yeah.
Started
So
eating data.
if you had to pick one for somebody to start, because I've never had anything like this done before, which one would you suggest? Where would you start at?
So would you be looking like, are you particularly interested in epigenetic age, or do you want to know like how your bone and muscle mass is going, or you don't, I mean, depends on what you want to know, right?
Uh, j- uh, just from
First,
that's actually a good question.
I would recommend standard blood testing, just as a very basic, just to start there, right? If you go to your doctor and you ask him for a blood test, they're not likely going to give you one, or they'll give you like a very minimalistic one.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, I mean, the only reason why a doctor will usually give you a blood test is because there's something wrong with you and they're trying to diagnose what's wrong. Oftentimes, they'll make up some bogus diagnostic to be able to put on the chart just so that insurance will cover it. But if you're willing to pay out of pocket and not go through insurance, you can get anything you want.
Yeah.
Anything. And so, I would recommend people use like Life Extension or there's Alta Labs I also use, or gosh, there's a lot of other companies. I'm blanking on some of them right now. Sci-Fox Health. There's tons of different companies that you can go through to do blood labs and just get the basic. There's a CBC and a CMP panel. CMP is a comprehensive metabolic panel. The CBC is, I'm blanking on what that is right now, but getting both of those will give you like basic liver, kidney, heart, blood. It'll give you good markers that you can then gauge where you're at and see what you need to work on, what you need to improve. That's usually pretty cheap. You can get those tests for like maybe $75. So we're not even talking a big outlay. But then if you wanna know even more information, say you wanna know hormones or you wanna know your lipid profile, those are add-ons, and,
Yeah.
you can get up to, like, around $400, $500 per test, but that's a super comprehensive test, and I think just least worth you doing once a year, if not once a quarter, to really
Yeah.
figure out where you're at.
Yeah. I spent 6 months in Thailand earlier this year. Well, because we got married in Thailand, and then I had a. Oh, this is another question I wanted to ask because I tore
Right this
this.
year?
I got married in November, yeah, of
Congratulations.
24. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. It was it's a a whole new adventure that figuring figuring out how that all works. Are you married?
No, no, I'm single.
No.
So
Oh, okay.
being married is better for your longevity than being single.
Is it really?
That's what they say. Of course, it depends on how good the marriage is, right? If you guys are fighting all the time, maybe not so much, but
Right. Yeah, I think ours is good. Plus, we're also into like we both eat well. She's taught me how to cook better, and we
yeah,
both
I need that.
both eat. Yeah.
I need to
Well,
balance my life.
just just go find go meet an Indian woman that's into biohacking, and you'll be set. Um. So yeah, one thing I wanted to ask about is it was such bad timing. I like tore a disc in my back like 2 weeks before our wedding, and it's an Indian wedding, so I'm supposed to be dancing and stuff, and instead I'm like, just bad timing. But so ended up sticking around there and doing PT and rehab because you could go in Thailand, you can do cupping, acupuncture, physical therapy, chiropractic, um, everything that you can think of under the sun, blood tests for a very, very, very minimal cost, and it's very like high quality service. Um, so I did quite a decent amount of blood tests in that process. But I feel like once you get one done and you get that, and you have somebody that knows what they're talking about, be like, okay, this is not good because of these reasons. And then not tell you to go take like, oh, you have high cholesterol, you need a statin, right? Like that's not really what you want to hear. You want to hear like, okay, how do I change my diet? Like, do I need to be supplementing? Do I need to be eating more or less of something? Do I just need to go outside more and get more sunlight? I think it like opens up your eyes to what's within your hands to do about your health, which is, I feel like if more people had that, maybe we wouldn't have a lot of the issues that we see now.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. It's funny.
We'll get off my
Recently,
soapbox.
no, 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 get on that soapbox. People need to hear that. They really do. I have recently started thinking about changing up what I'm doing diet-wise because uh, some of the advice that I had been getting from different books was, you know, olive oil. Eat lots of olive oil, that salads just should be a mechanism for you to get more olive oil, right?
Mhm.
Um, but it's interesting because I just read a book the other day, I'm blanking on the name, that was saying that, you shouldn't be doing olive oil because it's contributing to the buildup of plaque in your arteries, which was totally new information for me. But it really made me start to think because I did go to, I have a cardiologist that I go see every so often. And, again, I'm in good shape. I just want to make sure that I'm in good shape. And that's why I go see a cardiologist. But from my first to my second coronary calcium CT scan, I went from like 0 to a 15. And I was shocked because I'd been doing everything right. And I thought, well, what the heck? Why all of a sudden did I jump up to 15? And the only thing I can think of now in retrospect is I started adding tons of olive oil to my diet because that's what everybody, all the books and stuff said you should be doing. And now I come across this book that says you shouldn't because it's leading to this arterial calcification. Uh, so now I'm kind of like, maybe I'm going to start backtracking and start eliminating the olive oil.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to try that and see what happens on my next coronary calcium CT score.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've seen a ton of that. I know that Brian Johnson's Blueprint has their olive oil, and I've seen some other olive oils pop up where they're kind of saying like, heart cardiologists are recommending you take like a spoonful or 2 spoonsful of olive oil a day, and so it it kind of goes to show that like just because you hear something once from one source doesn't mean that that is like the source of truth, and that there could be varying reasons why this takes place. Like it could be olive oil combined with something else increases the like calcification. I didn't read the book that you have, but I just it's it's so difficult. And I think this is a question I had that I was going to ask later, but maybe I can bring it up now. Is it's so difficult to know if what you're looking at or reading or what you're listening to is actually true or real or legit.
There's marketing
spent
and science, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And how do you tell the difference? Because sometimes you look at people and you're like, that logically sounds like it makes sense based on the information I know about some of these things. So when you're looking at them, it might be easier for you to be like, red flag, red flag, red flag. That seems legit. So how do you tell the difference?
Hmm. A lot of experience, a lot of getting burned by doing the
Mhm.
wrong thing because somebody recommended it. Um, yeah, I mean, like in my past, I took tons of calcium supplements and then found out that I had way too much calcium built up in my tissues from a hair tissue mineral analysis. And that's what led me to go see a cardiologist because I wanted to make sure that I didn't do any damage to my heart by doing too much calcium. Especially because at the time I was getting enough calcium from my diet because I was doing lots of green leafy vegetables and eating lots of nuts and seeds. And anyway, there's there's the marketing that we often get fed, and then there's marketing that's hidden as science. So you have to be really careful about the study that you may be reading. Who funded that? Was it funded by the people selling the product? Then you really have to take that with a grain of salt and be very skeptical about the results. So you kind of have to go follow the money and look deeper to figure out like where did this study come from?
Yeah.
Or who's telling you that you should do this, and what's their benefit by getting you to do this. So yeah, you have to ask those questions all the time. You can't really just take the advice face value.
Yeah. It's kind of like you have to go a step deeper than just being like, oh yeah, it says there's a study and it was put on by them, and the control group was 10 people over the course of 6 months.
So when somebody tells me that I should be avoiding something or not doing something, I do tend to listen to that more because there's no financial interest involved in them telling not to do something. So that's
Interesting.
why when this particular book, this particular person mentioned this about the olive oil, I'm thinking, well, yeah, there's no upside for them. They're not making any money off of this claim. So maybe there's something to this. Maybe I need to take this seriously.
Yeah, that makes sense because what's the incentive behind the information? Are they going to profit off of it, or is it something where it seems like there's less of a profit motive? I'll have to keep that in mind. I feel like that's a good place to start.
Yeah, I mean, because really, let's face it, in this space of all these cool tools and gadgets, everybody's trying to sell you something.
Yes.
Whether it's really efficacious or not, you don't know until you buy it and try it, you know?
Yeah. And things are about to get harder too, because you already kind of have this popping up on social media where you have like AI influencers, AI testimonials, AI,
Oh, yeah.
like it's all fake.
I don't believe any
Promoting.
more.
Yeah. Yes. I feel like for people who, I mean, you worked in tech, so you can probably spot this stuff a mile away when it comes to like all this fake stuff. But for other people, I don't think they don't know what they're seeing. And so I feel like I don't know, it's a scary, it's a scary place to be when you can't trust what you see anymore online.
Yeah. Having played a lot with stable diffusion and even unstable diffusion, um, looking at those models that were used to help train the AI on its, on its generative results have really helped me to be able to spot that on social media. Like I can look at a picture and go, yep, that's AI, because I've
Yeah.
seen it already in the models for those tools.
Crazy. I'm trying my best to be as optimistic as possible about the future with the internet. I think that it is kind of a challenge though, because I'm just like, man, what's gonna happen to all the people making these things as like their creative outlet and stuff? Are they just gonna be drowned out by these other things? So
Now there's some really cool tools that I'm actually looking to use myself. Product called HeyGen. For anyone that's not familiar with that, it's a way of creating a digital avatar of yourself. And it's cool because it's very difficult to tell the difference between the live person and the digital avatar that it creates. So the benefit like that I can see to that is if I'm going to be creating a lot of YouTube stuff where I want to like talk and I'm going to be a talking head anyway, telling people some new information. I could worry about being camera ready and how I look and how my lighting is and all that. Or I could simply, write out the script that I wanna say, what I'm gonna say anyway, and feed it to this digital avatar, and once it's trained on me, it sounds just like me, it looks just like me, it has my mannerisms, be the talking head, and the lighting's always gonna be perfect, the background can be whatever I want it to be, and it can convey the same message, just without me having to worry about like, "Oh, how do I look?" And, I just finished to run, but gosh, I need to get this, content out. And I don't have to worry about that because I'll just let the digital avatar do it.
yeah, I've heard of that tool before, and I go back and forth on it because part of me is like, I think the way you actually presented it was probably the most encouraging, positive way. because I've heard it from the other direction where it's just like, oh, it's just gonna allow me to pump out as much stuff as possible, and I'll have AI write my scripts, and I won't have anything to do with it. And
Yeah,
I'm just like,
that is a big problem.
why do you want to put that out then? You don't even care enough to put any time into it. You just want to
People are
like,
doing
what are you gonna do?
now, which is very
Yes.
frustrating. They're sounding like
Yeah.
experts because they'll ask ChatGPT, like, "Oh, what's something I should talk about today in my podcast?" And
Yep.
ChatGPT will give them a script, and so they'll read the script, and they sound really intelligent, and
Mhm.
when you know the person and you know that they don't like study any of that stuff, you have to ask yourself, where is this script coming from that they're reading right now? Somebody else wrote it for them, and they are just the talking head anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know. I have this whole like, maybe I'm an old soul or something, but I have this feeling where if you're gonna be spending time putting something out, it should be something that you actually care enough about to put the time into it. And if you don't care enough to put the time into it and to invest in it yourself, then what's the point? And let's say it is something that you truly care a lot about and want to spend a lot of time into it, and you have ChatGPT write all these things and just do it all for you anyways. Then what are you gonna do with your time? Like, then what? That's how my mind works. I'm just like, all right, where is this going? And what are we gonna do after we get to that point?
yeah, it really depends on where you're coming from to begin with
Mhm.
as to what you get out of AI. If you're one of these people that says, "Oh, I don't wanna do the work. I just want AI to do the work for me," then sure, you're just gonna keep getting dumber and dumber and dumber, and AI is gonna do everything, and you're just gonna get to the point where you can't do anything for yourself because you just rely on the AI for everything, and I see that coming. That's definitely coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
I tend to use AI completely different. I want to learn, I want to grow, I want to know things, and so I have AI being my teacher, and I'm constantly asking it things because I'm inquisitive, and because I don't have an expert that I can go ask, but I do have the expert in the AI, whether that be, Gemini, Claude, or ChatGPT,
Mhm.
whatever the AI is that's out there, you can ask multiple AIs and get different
Mhm.
responses, and then let them argue back and forth between each other as to who's more right or why. Why it sounds like they might be talking two different things, but it might be both things are true. There's
Yep.
just a different aspect that, one is thinking of versus the other. And once you clarify that, then they're both in agreement. So it's
Yeah, it's
fascinating.
yeah,
Some
I love doing that where you like take the you like take one prompt, put it in one, get an answer, take the prompt and answer and put it into the other one. And then it almost kind of gives you a different data model to refine it off of. It's very helpful.
It's like having a
Um,
conversation between a Democrat and a Republican, right? They they're both probably right in what they're saying, but they're looking at complete opposite extremes of the same situation. And taken from those extreme points of view, what they're saying makes absolute sense.
Mhm.
But if you look more toward the middle of the things that actually, can agree on and come in common with, then
Yeah.
it makes total sense.
For sure.
Because people aren't willing
Yeah,
to do that.
yeah, yeah. We can save the politics episode for the next one because I'm sure in biohacking you get a lot of interesting characters with different opinions on those things. So
Yeah.
it's
But I love to learn from the people with the extreme opinions because
yeah.
there's grains of truth in those opinions. And if you take them both and bring them together and say, I'm going to pick the best from each of these,
Mhm.
like I did with, when I was a kid, trying to pick from the best of all the adults that I would see. And, you know, success leaves clues. Bar,
Yep.
bar,
For oh yeah,
bar,
for sure.
and forget the rest.
Yes. There's a friend of mine who I've learned tons of stuff from like in the health aspect of things. He's just like he's crazy when it comes to biohacking. He eats one meal a week right now, and he still exercises
Meal-
at least. Yeah,
it-
yeah. I bought that meal for him a few. No, no, he's shorter than me. He is. I'll send you his. You can see his socials. He's jacked. And right now, he's doing a dates only challenge. So he's like, I'm only gonna eat dates for a month. And yeah, he's so when it comes to health stuff, he's like So, so good. I would love to see him get one of the longevity tests done just to see where he's at. Um,
How does
but
he
then when it comes,
maintain his body weight?
I don't know. I have to ask him. I haven't. All I know is like the first time I met him, because I trained with him and I hired him as a personal trainer in Thailand years ago, and he showed up and he's like, "Oh, I'm doing an orange cleanse this month," and he has this backpack, and it's like huge. It's just full of these like the green oranges that they have there, and he's like, "Yeah, just every day I'm only eating oranges for 30 days," and he's just always doing something like that, and but so he's just so obsessed with those things and with biohacking and all that. But then that mind
CGM at all?
does he what?
Does he wear a CGM?
What's a CGM?
Continuous blood glucose monitor. Because
I don't think so.
if you're wearing a CGM and you're doing like an orange fast, that sugars from the orange and the juices are like driving your blood sugar like through the roof, and your insulin match, and you're aging yourself like really fast.
Well, I'll have to ask him about that because I mean, I feel like you and him could have a very in-depth conversation about this stuff because
I'd be
he
fascinated
knows.
to learn from him.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd probably learn a lot from you as well. It's so on one side he's like, I he's the one that got me to do blood tests. He's like, oh yeah, these markers when they're actually, he's like, when this marker is high or low, it's not actually what you think. It's if you look at this other marker and there's inflammation there, it's actually caused by like a kidney problem, and you actually need to fix this problem, and then this other marker will get better. So he's super smart when it comes to that. Then you ask him about some other things like crypto and politics, and you're just like, "Ooh, okay." Because I think he's kind of learned to not trust what he's told based on health information that's out there. So now he just trusts nothing. Everything is BS. So,
I mean,
um,
I tried to take that position.
yes.
I mean, I'll try to look deeper. I'll assume that the surface level is BS, but I'll look deeper to try to find the grains of truth in there.
Uh-huh. If you're interested, I can connect you with him. Maybe you guys can chat about some different things you're trying. He can share his experiment from his month of eating dates. So
Again, I'd hate to see what his blood sugar was like from that month.
I yeah, maybe he should be tracking it because then he could be putting some of this stuff out, or since he's basically experimenting on himself. So
Yeah, I mean, stuff like that is great. You can fuel yourself on the sugars from dates and from oranges. But again, sugar is not the best of fuels because it burns. It burns as an ash, and it will age you, it will increase your insulin.
damn.
It's just metabolically, that's not great. Now you might feel better because it is a cleanse that but not because of what you're taking in, it's because of all the stuff that you're eliminating.
Mhm.
You'll feel better because of it's a fast in that sense. You're fasting from other things.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, I would just love to sit in on a conversation with you guys because I feel like you maybe he has a logical reason behind some of these things that I just don't know or have never even thought to ask. Because when he said it, I was like, oh yeah, cool. That sounds like it's probably good for you. I don't know any better.
It's funny, you talked about, like, the blood markers when you mentioned that, you can see some things go high and other things go low. That's how I can tell that an influencer is posting BS blood markers. Be
Mm,
I do blood draws every single month, and I've been doing this for years, and
mhm.
I change my supplementation and somewhat my diet, to move various markers into not just the reference range, but into the optimal range for an 18 to 25-year-old, athlete, because those are people that are very well studied, and there's great data on that. Because again, when I mentioned that, most doctors won't even run a blood test unless there's something wrong with you and they're using it for diagnostic purposes. So
Yeah.
the reference ranges for all blood labs are made based on the averages of the population that's seen. So why would you want to be in the reference range on your blood labs? Because you're simply being average for a population of sick people your age. Why
Mm,
would you want to be average for sick people your age? I don't. I want to be average for healthy, young 18 to 25-year-old athletes. And so that's where will aim to have my blood markers in those ranges, not the reference ranges.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. And because when you move one marker higher to get into like an optimal range, you can very necessarily move other markers lower, like out of the optimal range. So it's like everything is connected. It's a teeter-totter, really. So you have to try to find that sweet spot in the middle somewhere that you can get like one marker the best it can with the other markers about as good as they can get. They're still not maybe as good as they could be. But when I see somebody post things where they've got like all their markers are awesome, they're like completely the best, I'm thinking that's not real. There's no way. And somebody did call out a famous, I wouldn't call him a biohacker, I would call him a longevity person who spends millions of dollars a year to reverse his age. Somebody did call him out on his blood markers, and then he updated his website to with some very fine print underneath his posted biomarkers to say that each of these were taken from each of these were like the best from various blood labs over the past 2 years. Like,
Well, that just seems you could just basically like take a shitload of vitamin D and be like, oh, look at how great my vitamin D levels are.
that's like, yeah, that's like taking a single card out of a hand that you get dealt and saying, okay, I got this ace from a card game I played in August. I got this king from a card game that I played, in July. And then so now I've got this full house that I can show you that I've got, right? But you didn't get them from the same deal. You got them, you're just picking. So I don't know. When you do that with blood labs, that makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah. That's something most people wouldn't even notice, but if you're in the industry, then it probably stands out quite a bit.
And that just shows me that the person that's posting that really doesn't understand blood labs either. And they're positioning themselves as somebody who is like, I'm the person that you should be following. You should be doing everything I'm doing. Buy all my products.
Yeah. Yeah. I yeah, the person that you're referring to, there's some stuff he puts out where I'm just like, damn, that's actually like really helpful. Like when it comes to certain things. And then other stuff, I'm just like, I don't know, man. That's just something just seems a little odd when you're talking about something and then you're like, and I sell it too. So here you go. And you're like,
Yeah.
I think I don't really trust that, but
No,
maybe that's what you're talking about before with the
nor should you.
yeah.
You shouldn't.
Yeah.
Anybody that's selling you a product, take what they're telling you with a grain of salt. There's things that particular person has like put out as scientifically, that he validated, right? That's just complete BS.
Yeah.
Like, rapamycin. He says, rapamycin's poison and it increased his pace of aging. And I laugh because when you really look into how he was using rapamycin, he was using it wrong. And people are like, well, what do you mean he's using it wrong? Nobody really knows what's the best. Yeah, yeah, people actually do because there's huge communities of people that are using rapamycin and people have figured it out by trial and error. And so, like for me, I'll use like 5 to 6 milligrams, no more often than once every 2 weeks, maybe only once a month, because you're getting the autophagy effect, you're getting the um, fasting mimetic from it, impulses like you should be, like would come
Mhm.
naturally. He was doing like 13 milligrams, which is way too high one weekend. And the next weekend he'd use 6 milligrams and he would keep alternating between those two. So in one case, he's using it too high and then he's using it chronically. Because when you're using those kind of dosages, the half-life of it is like 3-4 days. So you're not even getting it all out of your system before you're dosing yourself with a whole nother dose of it. So you're just throttling autophagy high constantly for all those weeks. And yeah, you're going to see physiological problems with that. They're very well documented. He saw problems with skin infections, with his lipids going out of whack. There was like several other things that he reported that he discovered that no, he did not discover. It's already in the literature. It's very well known. It's like you're a moron. You used it wrong, you know. And so yeah, then he saw his pace of aging. Of course, it increased from that. Duh. Um,
Yeah.
you're sure when you're going through autophagy and you're killing off weaker cells, um, yeah, your pace of aging is going to look like it's gone up from that, but that's temporary. It's supposed to be temporary. It's a hormetic stress, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. It's
like saying, oh, exercise is bad because it tears down muscles, so you shouldn't do exercise. Well, yeah, that's what exercise is supposed to do. It's in the rebuilding happens during the recovery. So yeah, so him to claim that rapamycin is poison and it's bad because he had all of these effects with it. It's like, are you that stupid? You really don't
yeah.
understand? It's like, very frustrating.
I think yeah, I think it just shows the like maybe the lack of experience in the field, and then also just I don't know, whenever I hear anybody say that they've done the study of something for the first time, I'm just like, "Are you sure?" Because I feel like I feel like there's a lot like, we've been doing studies for a long time, and to say that no one's ever done this before just kinda feels like I feel like you'd probably have a lot more credibility if you were like, "Well, somebody did a study like this, but they only got to this point, and we wanna take it a little bit farther." Like, that to me is more 'cause I studied psych in school, and you're required to do it's not the same as, like, the other sciences, but it did teach me about, the what makes a study, like, have high quality, and also, you know, so I see a lot of this stuff where it's like, "And this study backs it up," and it's like, "And we studied 2 people for 3 months," and you're like,
No.
"Okay, great." Like, it means nothing.
I always tell people,
Um,
let's face it, we longevity influencers. We are not doing science. I don't care how much we want to claim that we are doing science. We're not, because science needs to be repeatable. It needs to be verifiable by a third party, and
mm,
it needs to be something that like covers multiple people, like a large population, to show that it's worthwhile. Now, the
yeah,
other one experimentation that I do, that he does, that other people are doing, that's interesting stuff, but it can't be generalized to the entire population, right? Because it doesn't make sense. We're all different. We're of different ages where we require different substances at those different ages. We're different genders. Like women need different supplements than men do and in different dosages, right? Um, we have different genetics that will mean that we will uptake various supplements differently than other people. We might even react to them differently
mhm,
than other people. We've also got different microbiomes, right? And what's in our stomach will help to break down those substances, and then we'll utilize them differently depending on what our microbiome is. So there's all these variables, right? That makes one size fit all not work. And in medicine these days is realizing this. There is no one size fits all. Medicine now has gone to this direction of precision medicine, like
mhm.
targeted directly to the individual. And then you've got this multimillionaire who is trying to sell his products to say, this is what I take. This is what helped me. You guys need this exact same thing too, and you need the same dose that I'm taking. And yeah, no wonder a lot of people are struggling and having problems with it because in some cases, those dosages are like too high to start right out with. Like if you were going to start taking some of those supplements, you would probably want to start with some lower ones first. Let your GI like kind of build up some tolerance to that, and then slowly increase those to the full recommended study dosages of those. Not just start right out on the max, in a product
Yeah,
that you're getting from somebody. So,
right.
I mean, just so many things about that particular individual that just make me wanna scream. He's a
Yeah.
he's a noob. He's very new to this whole thing. He's only been at this, what, about maybe 2 years now? And he
Seems like it's
himself as the expert that people are supposed to go to, but
yeah.
he's just not. And it's very frustrating.
Yeah, I hope with, like, the exposure he's getting and kind of the pushback he's getting as well, that maybe he'll learn and adjust some of his messaging going down or moving forward, because so many he's like the f whether anybody likes it or not, he's become the face of it, and which is, could you imagine if you had only done this for 2 years and then everyone's like, "Alright, Dave, you're the expert on this field, tell us what to do."
I'd be like, "No, no, don't look at me." I still say that, right? I tell people, like, "You'll see stuff on my website. It's what I do. I'm not recommending to anyone else that you do that. I'm just giving you some clues of things that I've tried that seem to be
Mhm.
working for me, and if you can take bits and pieces from those, try them for yourself, see what you think, how you feel, how it affects you, then great. If you can get some helpful information out of that, fantastic. But yeah, don't just buy all the supplements that you see that I'm taking and start taking those.
We are back. We had a little technical issue. Dave had to switch to his treadmill laptop and his camera downstairs. So sorry for that slight delay. Um, I don't remember exactly where we left off, but I think we were kind of talking about the differences between um, what are like how do you tell if someone's legit or not? I feel like we kind of got through that for the most part. So I wanted to bring up a point you said on another podcast, but I don't think I got an answer to this question. You said you have a terrible habit of pushing yourself to the limit and getting sick. I also do this often. So I'm asking from a selfish point of view, what do you think is the best way? Like, what's your advice for yourself or for anyone else who has a tendency to push themselves too far and then end up getting sick?
Yeah, because I tend to not want to stop doing things. Like I like my P90X. I don't like to have to stop P90X when run season starts, like it has right now. And so it's really untenable for me to try to do the run training once I get into the really high miles and continue with P90X also. What I'm trying to do more is pay attention to my devices. Like my Whoop will tell me when I need to take a rest. Like Garmin will tell me when I'm overtraining. I used to just ignore those and just keep pushing through. So now I'm really trying to pay attention to when they tell me that I need to back off and relax. That I try doing that. I usually have problems mostly like when I go to conferences because I'm doing international or not sometimes international, but just sometimes regular flights, and I might be changing time zones, which messes up with my sleep. And then in a new environment that may or may not be conducive to sleep with the noise in a hotel or the lighting. So that messes with me. And then just not getting enough sleep and then pushing hard while I'm at these conferences and being on airplanes again with all the sick people that are coughing. I always end up getting something every single time I come home from a conference or a trip. So I was always sick as a kid. All three of like my brother, my sister, and I were always sick as kids. My immunity sucks. I think that's my weakest longevity point right now is my immunity. So I don't really have a great answer for you other than I just need to start paying better attention to how I feel, what my fitness trackers say when they're telling me that my HRV is low or that I need to take a break. I need to take the break. I'll just have to stop the doing the P90X workout or that run for the day and let myself recover properly. That's the only answer I have for you.
That's okay. Would you say HRV is like the biggest indicator from your metrics on, let's say, your Whoop band or any of your others to tell you that like you're
Yeah.
getting run down and you take a break?
Yeah, because even between like, Whoop and Aura, they might give me a different number, but at least the numbers that they're giving me will show me whether it's higher or lower on a particular day. So at least the trends are going in the right direction. In agreement, I should say, with each other. I never realized how
Okay.
much of a challenge it would be to walk and talk on the treadmill at the same time. I don't know how Ben Greenfield does this. This boy.
Well, you might be
No, no,
unlocking a new longevity.
yeah,
hack.
yeah. I probably need to practice it more. I mean, he's awesome at it if you've seen his podcast. So I guess I just need more practice.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to do it because if you're just gonna be talking anyways, might as well get a little bit of exercise out of it. But I'm sure it's like trying to walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I need better lighting down here too. My lighting keeps changing because I have a big flat screen TV in front of me and it's on screensaver
Uh-huh.
and it keeps changing colors. So that's why I'm looking at different colors. So yeah, I guess if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to do this with anybody else, I'm going to need to put some lighting in here.
Yeah, for sure. Just get a ring light or something. I'm sure that would clean it up.
Yeah.
So going back to diet, you've said that you eat low carb, no caffeine, and no sugar. So I understand the no sugar piece and in theory low carb, but why do you choose to go like do that diet versus any of the others?
Well, I was gonna say the reason why I don't do caffeine is because it's an addiction, right? I mean, most people don't want to admit that, but try going a day without your coffee sometime, and you'll see how big of an addiction it can be, right? I like to save caffeine for when I really need it, because if you don't use caffeine very often, and then you do use it occasionally, wow, does it have a big effect? So, like if I'm on a long trip somewhere, I might be nodding off, trying to stay awake, driving. Caffeine is a big saver for me. So again, we think we covered why I'm low carb and why I'm low sugar. But I don't think I answered your question though. What was the question?
It was just, why do you choose? So there's a lot of different diets out there, like you said, carnivore, vegan, vegetarian, like keto, and it sounds like yours is pretty straightforward, which is like low carb, no caffeine, no sugar. And the question was just, why do you choose that specific diet versus any of the others?
Oh, I just think it's the healthiest. Sugar's not doing you any favors. Caffeine's really not doing you any favors, and carbs are not necessary. You know, I do increase my carb load. Well, this time of year, because once I start run training, I tend to burn a ton of calories, and I don't have any body fat to burn. So I end up losing a lot of muscle. And that sucks because at my age, it's really difficult to put muscle back on. And so today, for example, got on the scale, found that I am down 10 pounds from where I normally am, which is also pretty lean, pretty low. So that's not good. That's not good. I got to put weight back on. And I lost all that in muscle. So yeah.
How did you end up losing that 10 pounds of muscle? Is it just not enough protein, not enough carbs, not enough lifting?
Yeah. Well, I just went through an autophagy weekend. This was a rapamycin weekend. And yeah, so I wasn't eating a whole lot this weekend. It was an intentional fast, but I didn't mean for it to be that heavy of a fast. It wasn't intended to lose that kind of weight. Um, yeah, so it was kind of accidental, but I do have to add more carbs back in, like in the way of rice and sweet potatoes in my regime when I'm doing run training.
Are those your two main sources of carbs then that you get is rice and sweet potatoes, or is there anything else?
Well, I mean, there are some carbs that you get from vegetable and fruit. So, but it's nothing really high. I'll probably see. I've been claiming that I'm going to do this forever, and I still haven't. Adding beans and lentils into my diet. Super simple. I did boil some lentils the other day and ate them, and they were delicious. So I don't know why I don't do that all the time. That would be a good carb source. And beans are easy enough to do too. For me, when I create routines and habits, they're very hard for me to change. It's like, trying to steer a large ship. It turns slowly. So it takes me a while to build these habits and where they're going to stick. So I just need to force myself to do it more often, and then it'll become an automatic routine. I haven't done it yet. I mean, I have to do it
How do you get habits to stick?
just by repeating them. um, I think really just it's the only way I can think of it. Forcing myself to do them for a while, and then it just gets more natural as time goes through. And then I don't even have to think about them. It's just, oh, it's what I do right now. It comes right after the other thing. So pairing it with something else that I'm already doing, like that helps. Yeah, it helps me remember.
And that's what I was going to ask about next is if there's anything that you do that helps do that. Because I've, I don't know, I started journaling in the morning years ago, and the way I remember to do it, or just to start doing it, is I just ended up setting my toothbrush on top of it in the bathroom. So then when I would go to brush my teeth, I would just like pick up my journal and start journaling. Um, that's the only way I've really found. Yeah, I don't know where I read it somewhere. I heard it on like Tim Ferriss podcast or something, and I was like, all right, well, I'm not. It's not working if I have to wake up, get out my backpack, get out my journal, put it back, and then proceed with my day. So how can I tie it to something I'm already doing?
Exactly. That's how I use my Beamer. It's a PEMF mat. It's actually in my bed. So first thing I do when I wake up is I just turn it on, and I lay there while I'm thinking about and planning my day. I'll get my PEMF work in. And then when I get up out of bed, my rebounder is right at the foot of my bed. So I can't forget to do that. That's there. Actually, I have to stand on it to open the curtains for my sliding glass door. So I mean, there's no avoiding it. It's there. And that's how I remember. So like you said, putting things in your way so you couldn't trip over them, basically. That's a great way to make it a part of a routine.
Yeah. It definitely is a game changer for anybody who's trying to adapt something new. If you already have something that you're doing every day, like brushing your teeth, having breakfast, whatever it is, just like put the thing as an obstacle to do your normal thing that you're already doing. Um, so one thing that I mentioned before is like you have great skin for 63, just well, great skin in general. And my wife would probably be very happy if I asked you what your skincare routine is because I think it's something that a lot of people don't really think about until their skin is kind of already maybe I wouldn't say beyond repair, but it's in disrepair.
We guys are notorious for that because, guys in general usually don't do anything for their skin. I was one of those for a long time. Well, for 50 years of my life, at least, probably longer than that. I just started, again, watching what women were doing. Success leaves clues, right? They do a lot of moisturizing, a lot of washing. Like most guys won't even wash their face when they get up in the morning, right? You just wake up and go. Yeah. It's just the way we are. So yeah, now I've learned to, wash my face every morning and before bed. I will put on like various creams at different times of the day. Um, I put the things that I use on my website. There's a product from Vitali that's a GHKCU, so it's a copper peptide. It's really good for the skin. So I use that. Um, I will use One Skin, which has their OS1 peptide that helps to get rid of senescent cells. That's a great product. Um, Dr. Joy Kong has a product that actually has stem cells in the product. And so I'll put the stem cell cream on. I'll rotate between these things. I'll do one night or one morning and something else the next day or the next morning. Yeah, so just keep rotating between the various products. I'm even experimenting now with full body skin rejuvenation. So I'm doing different things for that. Like some vitamin C cream, some prescription vitamin D cream. I also have some nicotinamide for whitening spots. Like I have a lot of sun freckles and things on my shoulders. That's helping to eliminate those. I have skin spots that are it's from sun damage, really. If you, like me, grew up through the 60s, 70s, and 80s, we were sun worshipers. We went to tanning salons and we're always out in the sun by the pool. So we're constantly roasting ourselves. So I've got some spots where the pigment is gone from my skin. And I was always told by dermatologists that, once that's gone, there's no repigmenting that skin. It's just gone. But I learned from ChatGPT of all sources that that's not true. There really is a treatment that can be done that will repigment those white spots. And it uses a prescription product called, I'm probably going to mispronounce it. This is the way it sounds to me when I read the words, tacrolimus. Tacrolimus can help to repigment white spots. And you use that in conjunction with UVB light or excimer laser. So I've recently acquired an excimer laser. I'm going to be trying that. So yeah, full body skin rejuvenation is next on my test. I don't know if that answers your question for you, but yeah, those products basically just rotating those from time to time.
It does, and I'll link your website in too. So if anybody wants to see what exact products you're using, they can reference those. And I know that it's so funny. Like my wife and I have gone to Japan together, and a few times she always picks up all these bottles of like skincare stuff. And whenever we're together, she was like, "Did you wash your face? You want to moisturize it? You want to cleanse?" And I'm like, and I don't know, growing up and stuff like that is something I just never thought about. I was just like, I got some lotion. She's like, that's not face lotion, that's body lotion. I'm like, well, I put it on my face. same skin, right? She's like, no, it's not the same. So I'm I'm like I'm in training to take care of my skin better. So, 'cause
Yeah. And it's funny when you avoid this, you avoid the sugars and you get good sleep, you can tend to avoid a lot of the bags that accumulate under the eyes and things that, people my age typically have.
yeah, I think I generally have decent skin overall. Like when I see people my age, 37, that I've grown up with or just friends with and stuff, and I see a lot of those people, I'm just I feel like I look like a baby in comparison, where or I'll get compliments from I'm like, yeah, I'm 37. There's like, how are you 37? I'm just like, I just am.
I wondered that when I first saw you too, because I thought you were like in your 20s. So
Yeah, it's that whole food diet for like 10 years. That's pretty much it. Um,
it's funny how that stuff works.
yeah, it's mostly just like, do I want to feel like shit? No, so I will eat this diet instead, and then it has other effects as well.
Nothing tastes as good as slim and young feels, right?
Yeah, that's well, I don't know. I mean, before I got into this, I remember I was working in startup tech world, and I saw a picture of myself from that time, and to me, I looked very inflamed and pudgy, and um, I mean, I've got like a taller, slim frame, so I feel like it's hard for me to look like I'd have to be pretty overweight to look that overweight, and just how I felt at that point versus how I feel now is just completely different. And around 5 years ago, I went vegetarian, and I've noticed I have really intense swings in energy. I actually lost I don't weigh a ton. I lost like 10 pounds, all like muscle within the first year. And I've had a very difficult time putting that back. I know there's a lot of vegan and vegetarian athletes and bodybuilders out there, but I haven't really found as many people who have dealt with the energy swings as much. So I guess from your perspective, if you were in my shoes, what would you do?
Well, having been in your shoes, because I mentioned that earlier where I was vegan for like 8 months. I don't know. Obviously, there's something I was missing because I was getting the energy swings, just like you were referring to. I have no idea. Once I added meat back in, those energy swings were gone. My energy stayed consistent and I felt terrific. So to me, that was the answer is just adding in some clean meat sources again. Grass-fed beef. I've got the free-range chicken, the Alaskan wild-caught salmon. And then I'll do sardines and mackerel and that kind of type of thing.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was afraid you were gonna say. Because I I think one thing that I found from early on until now, like the first few months I did it, I was like, oh, I feel so good, I was like doing intermittent fasting, on top of it. And then I realized like I don't actually know how to to eat like a healthy vegetarian. I'm still learning, um, because, growing up in the Midwest, it's like potatoes, carbs, like a lot of these things that you just gravitate towards. And I didn't eat a lot of those. Yeah, exactly. I didn't eat a lot of those until I started being a vegetarian, but then you just need food and you're just like, okay, well, I don't know how to make anything else, so I'll just go. I'm used to making steaks, not really vegetarian food. So you start gravitating towards these like fillers. And I think that could potentially be part of it, but I'm working on adding in more lentils, beans, chickpeas, all those types of things. But it
Yeah.
feels like it's an ongoing battle where you have like it to hit the clean macros is for some reason I find it to be a lot more difficult than when I was eating meat. And it's like, you have a steak, there's 60 grams of protein and and you're like half of half of your calories for the day. So something it's like an ongoing challenge that I'm still working through.
I hope at some point you interview one of those athletes that's completely vegan and ask them that question because I would love to hear what their answer is so I could learn from that too. But I think you're right. I think it's the beans, the peas, the lentils, um, and the chickpeas. think more of those are probably beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like if there's like an element of, because there's a bunch of things that happen. In my mind, there's no scientific basis for this, but I feel like that switching off of meat and eating a lot of these other things affects your digestion a lot. So maybe your
Oh, yeah.
body's not used to digesting. Um, I'm not even sure what the right term is, but even like having more beans, lentils, I ended up eating a lot more bread than I'm used to, so carbs, and your digestion just isn't like, maybe it's your microbiome or
Yeah.
something. Somebody smarter than me can tell me. But
It's definitely
there's
like
a
a
lot.
biome because it'll take your body a little while to get adjusted to those so that you don't have just, become a gas monster, from too many beans all of a sudden. Yeah, I think you have to acclimate to it slowly.
Yeah, so I feel like it's something I'm trying not to go back to eating meat, but sometimes when I'm just like, it would just be a lot easier if I just had chicken breasts or whatever it is, but I'm really determined not to do it because I haven't had any for 5 years. But I'm also like, I
That's
want to be in
awesome.
better shape. I wanna, like, build more muscle, but I wanna do it this way,
Yeah,
and I know it's possible. It's just like
it's definitely possible.
there's that yeah, there's just elements to it that I don't have the education on yet that I need to figure out.
It's funny how people know these things, but they're just not always willing to share. Like, I always wanted to have a bodybuilder physique. I always wanted to be a little bit more ripped and cut, like, well, kind of like I am now. But when I would ask people, like, that I'd see in the gym or people that I know that were doing, bodybuilding competitions and stuff, I could never get a straight answer for them. It's like they didn't want to tell me. Yeah, I don't know if it was maybe if they were embarrassed about it or if it was some kind of trade secret that they didn't want to share. Nobody would give me that information. I had to just stumble upon it myself.
Yeah, and sometimes people don't even know the answer. They're just kind of doing the thing that works for them, and
Yeah,
they found something that works, and there's not a lot of experimentation behind it.
yeah.
It's hard to say. I changed this before I send it over to you because I was like, all right, this sounds a bit too basic. But the original question was, so for 63 years old, you're shredded. I I can't help but notice, but you have your abs are absolutely shredded for like any age. And was that something that was intentional, or is that just more of a byproduct of of what you were doing?
It was a byproduct of P90X. So I stumbled upon that the first iteration of doing P90X, but I mean, I had good abs. They just didn't really show as well because I was still doing carbs at that point. So they were covered over by a bit of fat. It was later, once I did cut the carbs, that the abs really started to show. And then once they started to show, I'm thinking, well, okay, now I'm really going to work at them. So now I do the P90X ab workout plus the Tap Out XT2. It's called, I think it's called 8-pack abs XT. So I do that routine and the ab ripper X from P90X. I'll do those back to back. And that's so it really gets my abs to pop. In fact, for the ab ripper X, I'm sorry, the 8-pack abs XT, they use a 6-pound, um, it's a ball basically with 2 handles on it, sand filled. That comes with the program, or at least it did when the program was still available. And at that point, I was using that 6-pound ball. They say in the program, if you need a heavier ball, get a heavier ball. And so after doing that for a couple of years, I thought, maybe I should try a heavier ball. And so I set the 6-pound sand ball aside and grabbed a 10-pound kettlebell and started using that. And that was a good challenge. And that got more definition to show. Now I use where is it? It's a 20-pound kettlebell that I use. And it definitely makes the workout a challenge, but it's like you have to keep increasing these things to challenge yourself more. So that got the abs to pop a lot. And I think the other secret then is sauna. I've had a lot of friends look at my arms and say, wow, you've got great, vasculature. Your arms look so ripped. What do you do? I said, well, I don't really do anything different than you do as far as the workout goes, but using a sauna regularly, it tends to melt away all that subcutaneous fat, and then it just gives me a really good ripped look. So sweating, you know, sweating is the key there. I don't know bodybuilders, even though most don't admit this, but before a big event, some of them put on like plastic suits and go sit in a sauna so they can sweat, and that gives them that they're very dehydrated. But yeah, it gives them a super dehydrated look, but very shredded, very lean. So I'm kind of doing it without the extreme of wearing a plastic suit.
Yeah, this if you had to sum it up, it would be low carbs, P90X, like I think it's called Abrifer X,
Yep.
if my memory
Yep.
serves, and then sauna, and then what was the last one? It was with, I can't remember what the word.
That 8-pack abs XT. It's part of Tap Out XT2, I believe.
Guaranteed abs after.
Guaranteed abs. Yes, absolutely.
Speaking of one other part of the body, one thing that I know we both have worked on computers quite a bit. One of my biggest challenges I have is posture, like rounded shoulders, kind of head sitting forward a little bit. You worked at a computer at a desk a lot. How did you combat that? What do you do?
No, I pretty much had the same problem. I kept trying to change the way I would sit when I was at the desk, or I put a board across my treadmill that I could sit my laptop on, and I would do my work on the treadmill, walking. And that kind of helped me, my posture, make me stand up much more straight. If I was sitting in a chair, I was kind of hunched over the keyboard. Here, thankfully, the level where the board is and the keyboard sits, it's really just at a very comfortable distance away from my hands. So I don't have to hunch or do any kind of slouching to use it. So that helps. I also tried sitting on a stability ball for the longest time while I was working. And so that helped me with my posture. And I would then roll from side to side on the ball while I was working. So that would like stretch out my sides. I tried all kinds of various things. Just kept changing it up, just challenge myself in different ways.
I'll have to give that a try. I've never done the ball before, but um, I'm trying to come up with creative ways because I feel like almost everywhere you sit, it's like not at the right height, so you end up leaning over it, or if it's too high, you kind of lean back. And I'm thinking that maybe even the best thing to do is just take breaks often and stretch, because it's unless you have like any position that I feel like you hold for too long is not good for you.
I totally agree. Yeah, I would do exercise snacks, I like to call them. Well, actually, the term came from Dr. Rhonda Patrick, I believe. I think she coined the phrase exercise snacks. I love doing those, like every 15, 20 minutes or 30 minutes. You would even set a watch timer sometimes to remind me. I would get up from what I was doing, just go like run down the hallway or go like outside, run down the street, run back, just do a quick sprint or drop to the floor, do the 25, 30 push-ups or go do as many pull-ups as I could do. So just something. Each break, I would do something different, like some different muscle group. And that kept me active so that I wasn't just sitting without moving the muscles, without moving the lymphatic fluid. I mean, let's face it, they say sitting is the new smoking, right? The more that we don't move, our cells are just kind of bathing in their own excrement, right? You've got the sounds very pleasant, right? You've got your veins and your capillaries that are bringing nutrients into the cells, and you can get stuff that accumulates in your bloodstream, which is why people do therapeutic plasma exchange. That'll help, clear out all the misfolded proteins and degraded proteins and garbage really that's built up in the bloodstream. But that does nothing to filter out your lymphatic fluid and the interstitial fluid around the cells. So the cells get good nutrients from the bloodstream, sure, but then they excrete their waste into that interstitial fluid. And some of that waste does go out via the bloodstream if it's smaller molecules, but the larger molecules go through the lymphatic system. The only thing that moves lymph, because there's no pump through your lymph system, only thing that moves lymph is massage or muscle movement. So if you're not constantly moving every muscle in your body, the cells in the area that the muscle's not moving are basically just stewing in their own excrement. That's not good. um, you get too much waste built up there, then it blocks nutrients from being able to reach the cell. It also impairs the intracellular communication that has to happen between the cells, both of the same type, like muscle cell to muscle cell, versus some of the other cells of the body that might be sending hormones to that muscle or to that cell. So you need to be moving, you need to be sweating, you need to get those toxins and metabolites, waste products removed from your cells in order to be able to stay healthy. So that's like the next level, moving. I guess that goes along with the exercise and the sweating.
Interesting. I never knew that you're, I mean, I guess it makes sense that like if you're exercising and whatnot, you're less likely to get sick, but it sounds like your immunity actually is dependent on flushing that excrement from your
Absolutely.
muscles.
Absolutely.
And if you're not doing that, you're basically kind of wearing down your immune system to the point where eventually you'll get sick.
Yeah. That's why when people talk about creating exercise in a pill, I call bullshit on that, because sure, they may be able to come up with a mimetic that will give you the beneficial things that get created when you exercise. So yeah, you might be able to get some nutrients out of an injection or a pill, but no pill or injection is going to get rid of the waste. You have to do the work for that.
What do you think the floor is for minimum amount of movement per day to get added benefits?
Yeah, I know everybody's trying to look for the least thing to do, right? I know that's like Dave Asprey. He wants to do the absolute minimum of any kind of hard work, right? He wants to do the easy way of everything. I don't have a good answer for that. I think just getting up and doing the work. I mean, I think you need to go walk, right? You need to at least go take a walk after dinner or after breakfast. Those are good times because they help with the your insulin level. They help keep that low. Um, Walking at a bare minimum. Go park farther away from the store, right? So you have to walk a little bit more. Take the stairs instead of taking the elevator when you have to change floors in the building. Just make more challenging things for yourself rather than taking the easy way out all the time. That's what I would recommend to people. But just find ways to move in different ways. So, I mean, I've talked about the P90X, which, like every other day is a weight bearing day. And then in between days are cardio days. Um, I also like to do yoga and Pilates because those are different type of movements, even though yoga is built into one of the workouts in P90X. But I also do a Carol bike, which is like high intensity interval training. That's beneficial. There's just so many different things and different modalities that will help you move different muscles or build your cardiovascular fitness and improve your VO2 max, which is also important for longevity. So there's just different aspects to exercise. It's kind of like when we talk about the supplements, there's no one thing. It's sort of a combination of all the things that it takes, because you want to move the lymph, but yeah, you also want to increase your lung capacity, your heart, and those things you're just never going to get out of a pill.
For somebody who's listening that struggles with the energy to work out or the focus to work out, and they just find it to be easier to like kind of crash out on the couch after a long day's work, where do they start?
I've found that the more you do, the more you can do. The less you do, the less you can do. It goes like along with that old adage, if you don't use it, you lose it. And that's so true. We don't get old because we stop working out. I mean, sorry, we don't stop working out because we get old. We get old because we stop working out. So I would say to people that, instead of laying on that couch, make yourself go out and do a walk or do a run. For example, there's times when I've had to do a run. It's on the schedule for my marathon training program. I absolutely did not feel like it. I mean, I was tired. This happens fairly often, especially when I'm still doing the P90X. There's only so much energy to go around. and I just won't feel like doing the run, but I'll put my shoes on and I'll force myself to go out anyway. And those invariably, those are always my best runs. I always find extra energy when I go out and do the run. It energizes me. Whereas the more I sit, the less energy I seem to have. So it's very paradoxical. It's one of those mitochondrial things that they will step up and produce what you need if you force them to.
And how long does that take? It's not like you work out today, tomorrow you're like in shape. So
Right. That
how
doesn't happen.
yeah. So what's the turnaround time?
For me, it takes a couple of weeks. Like for P90X, if for some reason I should stop P90X for a while and then restart again, it's like I'm starting over from scratch, like doing it for the very first time. And for the first 2 weeks of doing P90X, and many people that I've talked to that have tried P90X and quit say they've never made it past the first 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks are hell, depending on how you do it, of course, because you're moving nearly every muscle. You'll be moving muscles you didn't even know that you had. And after that first 2 weeks, though, if you can stick with it, you'll be sore as heck the first 2 weeks. But your body adjusts and it gets better. It steps up to the challenge. And the next 2 weeks are easier. And the next 2 weeks after that are easier. And that's when you find yourself starting to increase your weight that you're using by like 5 pounds to challenge yourself, to keep it challenging. Otherwise, you're getting stronger, you're getting faster, you're getting better, and you could just plateau, or you could increase your weight or increase your reps, make it more challenging, and continue to grow some more or get faster some more. But you have to challenge yourself. If you just sit around on the couch and you're not challenging yourself, you're never going to grow. You're never going to get better. You're never going to get faster. You're never going to get stronger. Never going to get healthier. So you have to challenge yourself, and you'll find that you can step up to that challenge.
So it sounds like the first 2 weeks are the hardest. That's where most people drop off. If you can make it past the first 2 weeks, then you'll start to feel or see some slight changes. And then about 6 weeks in, you'll feel like you're ready to increase your challenge.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed the physical difference within the first 4 weeks. So like the first month, yeah, but the first 4 weeks, first 6 weeks, definitely. And then by the end of the 90 days, it's like, whoa, holy crap, this is awesome.
Well, that's so for anybody listening, then that sounds like a good, I mean, as long as you know that there's like an end because I feel like you probably know that when you take some time off, maybe because of illness or injury, or you just had something else going on and you come back and you try to hit it hard and then you just get floored by the workout.
Oh yeah.
You just want those. I mean, I think when you're in shape and you get floored by a workout, there's like you actually feel good about it. But if you're not in shape and you're on the floor in the middle of a workout, you're not having a good time. You're like, why? You're like, is this how stupid people die? Am I like really out of shape? What's going on?
I always tell people, don't let your ego get in the way. Start with ridiculously light weight. I mean, weight that doesn't even feel like anything to you. Because by the end of the workout, you're going to feel that weight. You may not feel it at the beginning, but at the end, you're going to. And so, yeah, start with something low. You're still probably going to end up being sore, but at least you're not going to injure yourself and be so sore that you're unable to do the next day's workout. So you want to always survive. Always want to survive to the next day, to the next workout. So start easy, start light. I'm going to have to go through that, by the way. Once I get the arthroscopic surgery on the shoulders and the arms, I'm probably going to have a period of time where I'm not going to be able to use the shoulders and the elbows. Probably going to be in a sling, and I'm going to lose even more muscle. But I've been through so many iterations of build up and tear down through my life. I know that I can build it back again. It's just a matter of time and effort. So yeah, it's going to be really disappointing. I'm going to be irritated. I'll probably be very grouchy, and because I'm going to lose a lot of muscle. But it'll take some time, but I'll build it back.
Well, I don't have any more questions for you right now, but this has been super informative and I'm very appreciative for your time. I feel like I've learned quite a bit, and hopefully if someone's listening to this and they learn something and make some changes too, then I feel like anybody who listens to this is going to learn something and walk away with some positive changes they can make. So if anybody wants to learn more about whether it's what your skincare routine is, like follow you, check out any more of your work, how do they, where do they find more information about you?
Well, my website is my name, Dave Pascoe, PASCOE.net. And I can be found on Instagram at Dave.Pascoe. And my YouTube channel, it's really weird. It's Dave Pascoe's, with an S, no apostrophe, URL. Only because when I created that in 2017, Dave Pascoe was already used. David Pascoe was already used. I was very frustrated. It was late at night. So I just said, oh, screw it. I'm going to call it Dave Pascoe's URL. So that's what stuck.
Well, hopefully that somebody will go check you out there and make some positive changes in their life. Again, thanks for dropping by today, and maybe we'll talk again sometime in the future after I've applied some of these changes.
I would love that. And thank you for your questions, because I love them. They were not the average questions that people ask me. They were some really insightful stuff. So I really appreciate you and the questions you asked. So thank you for this.
I hope you enjoyed that podcast as much as I did. If you want to support the show, head to trevorcarlson.com, where you can find out a little bit more about my book. And if you want to support it, I think that we're taking pre-orders at this point, so you can find out more there. It's a dream I've had to become a fiction author since I was a kid. So this is me taking my shot. We've already sold a good number of copies through our Kickstarter campaign. It wasn't a record breaker like Brandon Sanderson's, but I was pretty happy that I was able to sell at least a few books there. If you want to know more about any of the articles coming out, videos, podcasts, head to trevorcarlson.com, subscribe to the email newsletter, and look forward to seeing you on the next video. Bye.